Alrighty, Wraith King support, early ganker, jungle version. This one relies more on the power of ganking than the jungle. Just let's get that through first. And also has to have the cold. So we're going to talk a little bit about this build. This build is kind of unreliable, even as support Wraith King. Um, it can work, but it's not necessarily going to work out in the end. Alright, so your default starting items should kind of look like this. Get one ward, ward up your own jungle with this ward to protect yourself so that you can see incoming ganks. There's a few spots where you can put this ward to make sure that you won't get ganked. You basically build, you get a set of tangos, you get a stout shield and a ring of protection. The whole point of this ring of protection is the 3 armor. It's basically a casual ring of protection just so you can jungle with little to no problem. Along with the stout shield, the jungle creep shouldn't hit you very hard. Alrighty, let's talk about the early game items. Basically, since you're in the jungle, you're going to end up rushing the Blink Dagger over rushing Arcane Boots. There's also potential where your team's going to want you to rush the mech over the Arcane Boots, which is kind of risky considering that you won't have no mana for your ultimate if you do Wraithfire Blast after blinking in. And it's probably not wise to do before Arcane Boots anyways, that's why I have it lined up like this. Otherwise, basically the build is the same, as you can see here. However, I'll go over it again for people who did not watch the other version. So early game, you're going to want to buy smokes and TP scrolls. I do not know why they're not in here. Okay. So, well, the TP scrolls are going to be prioritized after boots, though. Actually, no, they're going to be prioritized before smoke, sorry. Actually, no. This cold has got me not thinking in a straight pattern here. Basically, this with the smoke, you're either going to gank top lane by surprise, or you're going to gank mid. If you're Radiant, this is somewhat easier than Dire. So, let's go over this. Basically, if you're doing Wraith King jungle, if you're Dire, it's not going to be the easiest time ever. The Dire's jungle is set up slightly different, giving you a disadvantage as Wraith King support. However, it still can be done. The Radiant jungle is slightly less unforgiving than Dire jungle for this reason. The way the Radiant jungle is set up, you can easily wrap around the top lane without, not the top lane, the safe lane without being seen probably. And there's also a lot more spots where you can sit where there's trees. The Dire jungle, while yes, you still have the tree factor, it is also a kiting nightmare. So basically, you can lead off with your stun. If you have no other stun in that lane, which sometimes does happen, I don't know why, the safe laner should always have at least a support with a stun, or a setup skill like Rubik. However, you sometimes get the Skywrath mage that the zones out. You got an anti-mage sitting over there waving hi, I'm just farming. That is possible too. If you have that kind of setup, you're probably going to get kited like hell. Because of the way the woods are set up around the Dire, it's a lot easier to get in fog. The Radiant, you have a few spots where you can get in fog, but more than likely you're going to be seen. So there's that. Plus, ganking mid is Radiant's a bit easier. You got the walkway that leads up through Roche into the Dire's mid, and then you also got that bottom tree line by the tower mid. So you could potentially set up a kill that way. If you're dire, however, you literally don't have that benefit, and it's a lot harder to sneak a kill on mid. Anyways, that's enough about smoke. TP scroll, basically, you're just there to stop dives. If you're in the jungle and you have a solo offlaner, your offlaner could be dove, and you're gonna need a TP scroll to help them out. And in the end, you may actually stay top with your offlaner or bottom, depending on which side you're on. You'll rush boots of speed, then you rush blink dagger, then you rush arcanes, and then if your team needs it, a mech. You can build the casual ring of protection that you use for jungling into Vladimir's, which is good for both builds. This is a really good support item now overall. The mechanism should technically be picked up by a different support or a carry like Razor, Shadow Fiend, Invoker can grab it. Anybody with a reliable mana pool that isn't technically rendered by it too much, because Wraith King technically is rendered by it by a lot, even with Arcane Boots. Sorry, I had to cough. Because of the high mana cost. This being said, the Arcane Boots alone may not be enough to sustain it. I would recommend a bottle over a Soul Ring. Even though Soul Ring can be more beneficial in a fight. I'm trying to do this without coughing. My voice is starting to become weird. Hold on. Ugh. Sorry about that. I had to turn off the mic there for a second. Anyways, after you get all your basic items, which should just be Blink Dagger and Arcanes, in most cases you can start buying Observer Rewards again, and then you can go for the shiny items like Vladimir's Bottle and Wand and that. You can also just rush the bottle while you're in the jungle after the Blink Dagger, which would be fine also. This would be your makeup if you're doing a core roll. I mean, you can technically throw in power treads if you need it. If you can't afford the boots to travel right away. Alrighty, so situational items. This is probably should be called something else. This should be the support items if you have to support, if you're forced into the support role completely. Which, if that is the case, something did not happen right. Basically, all support Wraith Kings build in the carry items later on. However, if you're forced into support, these are your items to choose from. There's a fair whack of them. Guardian Greaves gives you good around all stats, gives you a bit better mana pool, and a bit more armor, making you a bit more tanky, making your ultimate a little bit more useful. Force Staff gives you really good mobility, and considering that you already have a Blink Dagger, this will further improve your mobility or your defensive factor for your team, as you can force staff somebody out of harm's way. Scythe of Ice is a good utility / support item for just about any support or intel carry. You're not an intel carry, you're support. This is where it falls into your category. It gives you a really good mana pool. It gives you really good mana regeneration, and a hex. The hex is probably the biggest part of it. Glimmer Cape. I haven't used this item a lot, so my explanation of talking about it is kind of weird. However, it is a really good item for a support to pick up. It gives the target invisibility, and it also reduces, I guess I could say it that way. It reduces magic damage done to the target. And it can be cast by channeling, which Wraith King really doesn't have an issue with, because he doesn't have no channeling abilities. Okay, Yule, Scepter of Divinity. This isn't the greatest of items on Wraith King, but you're playing as a support. It gives you an okayish mana pool and an okayish mana regen. Why do I say okayish mana regen? Because you're in pool really isn't all that great. So percentage based region really isn't all that great on a low intel hero. However, it still is a good item on him as a support, as it can set up kills, it can save an ally in a clutch, it can save you in a clutch. Okay, let's talk about Ghost Scepter. Not the best item on Wraith King, but if you're forced into the support role because your team's doing poorly, and you have 1,500 gold saved up for who knows what reason, or how you got it, considering your support, and if your game's going badly, you should probably be broken alright, but then again, you were jungling off the start, so you might have the gold. This basically would be to save yourself if the other team has a lot of right click. Aghanim Scepter, it is not recommended if you're going the core route because of the fact it's just not very useful if you're a core. If you're going to go into the 4th core position later on after being support early on. This is only good if you're support, in my opinion. I just don't see a use for it if you're going to carry. However, if you're support, delaying the deaths of your allies could be very useful. Pipe of Insight. If you're going up against a team with heavy magic damage, this is actually really good to get if you're a support. If you're forced into the support role completely, that is. However, it's not really bad on carry Wraith King, but you should probably only build the hood. Not the hood. The hood. I was actually right the first time. If you're going to do this, however, if you're going to carry, basically, if you're going to support, you can build it into the pipe. If you're going carry and you just want the magic resistance off of it, say if they got a lot of magic damage, but you don't really want to go BKB because you don't think it's really needed because they don't got that many stuns, the hood could actually do better than a BKB. Basically, if you're support though, you're going to want to get the pipe. This gives really good magic resistance to your whole well, not resistance. It does give magic resistance. I'm just having a hard time explaining all this with this cold. Okay, let me restart this thing. It gives your team magic resistance passively, and then when you activate it, it gives a 900 magic damage block to your team and 400 to yourself. And this will make fighting things like Tinker and a bunch of other heroes a lot easier. Crimson Guard, a few key heroes that it's good against. Gyrocopter's flat cannon, it's fairly good against. Any type of physical damage, it's fairly good against, actually, in all reality. And then Undying is probably one of the best items you can get against an Undying, is it will stop the Tombstone from doing too much damage to your team. Meaning you could either kill the Tombstone during the time, or you could just focus the heroes down. More likely you're going to kill the Tombstone, though. Solar Crest. It gives you some evasion, some mana regen, and some armor. If you put it on an ally, the armor and evasion then gets put on them. And if you put it on an enemy that has high right click, say a troll, they're going to miss 30% of their attacks. And I'm going to explain the Juggernaut thing over again. If you put like Heaven's Halberd's debuff on Juggernaut and he does not debuff himself from the debuff, which disarms him, during his ultimate, I think he still does the base damage of his ultimate, but he will not do the actual damage of the swings while he's in his ultimate because he'll be disarmed. Solar Crest, it probably works the same way with Juggernaut. He probably missed 30% of his attacks while he's doing his ultimate. Medallion of Courage, the precursor to the Solar Crest. It is a really good pickup for any support. it will make Roshan a bit easier for any physical damage to carry. And, well, yeah. And some carries actually pick it up themselves. Alrighty, since you're in the jungle of this build, you actually won't be scaling your stun until 4 and 5, which could actually change. This could be reverted around a little bit. But no matter what, you'll be taking your lifesteal at level 1, because otherwise you won't jungle. However, if you're fighting at the rune, you can actually take your stun at level 1, and then get your lifesteal at level 2, get a stat at level 3. If you do this, though, you're pretty damn hoping that there's something easy to solo in the jungle, and that you don't get, like, 3 centaur spawns, and, say, satyrs and a wild wing. This will force you to have to pull to get your second level. And hope to God that they don't gank you during that pull. So, this is a pretty standard build up for the jungle. Some people like to opt for a crit over the second level of the heal, which is optional. Because a crit, it's only a 15% chance, and that's why I have it set up like this. Basically, you take an early stat point to help your lifesteal a bit. And then at 6, you do not level your ultimate until you actually need it for a team fight. So if you get picked off or something like that, don't waste your ultimate. The first level, it has a really long cooldown, and you want to save that for a team fight that breaks out. At level 10 and 11, this is where you can technically scale it up twice. Because the second cooldown of it ain't as long, it ain't is hurtful if you get solo picked off. However, 6 through 9 save the skill point until an actual team fight happens that's actually needed. Anyways, this was the jungle version with some probably confusing details because of this cold. Kind of has me messed up. I'll probably redo this build at some other time. Anyways, I hope that you guys enjoyed it, got some information that was helpful, and like how I'm doing this.